Good afternoon and welcome to the FALCON Oil and Gas Limited Q&A session relating to the resolution passed at the special meeting of the company today. Throughout this recorded meeting, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions can be submitted by the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of the screen. The company is not in a position to discuss ongoing operations at Beetaloo, and the company can only respond to questions relating to the resolutions where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Filippo Quigley, CEO. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Paul, and hello to everybody. Look, we find this Investor Meet Forum a great way to kind of communicate ongoing activities of the company, be they corporate activities like today in terms of our special meeting or operations that we've often done in the past. Today, we're just going to focus on the resolutions that were passed at a special meeting this morning here in Dublin. And we have a number of questions in, which I'll pass over to Paul to go through a few short questions. As I said, they are just on the resolutions themselves. At a future date, when we have an update on operations that we'll release, we'll come back on and we'll do a QA and deal with all issues and questions around ongoing operations. But for the purpose of this meeting, we'll just stick to the special resolutions that were passed today. So just back to you, Paul, if you have the questions.
Fantastic. Absolutely. As Philip said, we received a short number of questions, and thank you to all the investors for submitting those. The first one reads, why is FALCON considering a US listing?
Yeah, good question. One we won't take lightly. One we've considered as a board for the last 6 or 12 months. But when you look at the recent interest in the Beetaloo and where it's come from in the last 24 months, the arrival of Brian Sheffield, drilling contractor H&P, oil field services Liberty Energy, Tamron's own IPO on the New York Stock Exchange, it's becomes very obvious that the best place to attract further capital and support for Falcon's interest in the Beetaloo is probably in the US. Hence, your board, we met in the last few months, we took a decision, went out, we met a number of US banks that we thought would be interested in supporting the company's listing there. And we got a very positive response. And we're now working, particularly with one US bank that wants to support Falcon and wants to get, your company in front of as many, interested US investors as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you. I know you're trying to reach a price point for the market, but was there a smaller reverse split considered?
Yes, absolutely. The resolution that was passed earlier today, it authorized the company to do a 1 for 250 share consolidation. But I want to be clear, the only rationale for even considering a share consolidation in the first place is to satisfy a condition of getting listed on, for example, the New York Amex Stock Exchange, where they have a minimum requirement of $3. Your board, we wouldn't consider doing consolidation, just for the sake of doing one. We're all very well aware, as I'm sure a lot of our shareholders are, of potential downside risk to doing a share consolidation, particularly if you do one in what I call in a vacuum, when there's nothing really going on. If you look at our current US dollar equivalent share price of 6 cents, to get to that $3 minimum, we'd have to do a minimum of a 50-for-1 consolidation. Assuming we get good flow rates before we do any share consolidation, you might move that consolidation to a 25-for-1. But you don't want to, when we look at what price we want, what consolidation we want, you don't want to land at or near that minimum $3. Do you want to be in the $5 to $10 range? Do you want to be in the $10 to $20 range? For example, if we go for a $15 IPO price in the US listing at today's price, that would be your all in 250 for one consolidation. But I think it's important to point out that the resolution passed today, what it's done is it grants the company the authority to do a consolidation of up to 250. But in all likelihood, depending on the share price prior to, that will be more likely a lot lower than the 250. And again, we're not doing the consolidation unless all the conditions that we deem are there to eliminate the downside risk are there. So like good flow rates, good reception in the US in terms of a no-deal roadshow we might do before results, a good support from a bank. Unless they're all there, we won't even attempt the share consolidation. So this gives us the authority to do it, but doesn't mean we'll absolutely carry it out.
Thank you very much. What date will the reverse split happen?
Yeah, again, no date set. The authority given to us today gives us 12 months to execute. So anytime between now and 12 months. The timing will be aligned with a number of things that need to happen. And the most important of those is, getting out with an announcement of these flow rates from the first 2 wells of the pilot program. And then based on marketing of Falcon, as I said, pre and post-use flow rates in the US with this US bank, and see how that market responds. So, if you were to look at it now, we'd be looking at probably Q2 as being the ideal time for doing this share consolidation, together with the US listing and everything else. So, but as I said, we have 12 months. There's no date set, and it certainly won't be happening in 2024.
Thank you. Can you please be very specific about what the consolidation will mean for holders of Falcon Australia shares, and if there are any near-term action needed from Falcon Australia shareholders before or during the consolidation? What this means, if anything, regarding to dilution of shares?
Yeah, as most people know, we hold our interest in the Beetaloo via Falcon Australia, and the parent company owns 98% of that company. There's a further 2% which is held by mostly individual shareholders. So the question, I presume, is coming from one of those. This share consolidation has zero impact on Falcon Australia shareholders, and zero dilution for any Falcon Australia shareholders. So it's got no impact whatsoever.
Great. If there is any progress towards a US listing, and when?
Yeah, again, what I've said already, we're making good progress. We've had some good meetings. As one bank in particular, very keen. This bank is very knowledgeable of the space that we're in, very knowledgeable of the Beetaloo, very knowledgeable of our partners in terms of Brian Sheffield, but also H&P and Liberty Energy. So, as I said, we're making good progress, but it's all going to be linked, the share consolidation, the listing, and the flow rates. So, as I said, it all kind of points in terms of timing towards kind of Q2 next year.
That's great. Thank you, Philip. If there are any other topics that you wish to address, please do so. And then can I just please ask you for a closing couple of comments? Just if there is anything further you wish to address, Philip, then please do so.
No, just if anyone has any questions, but if you can just keep those to the resolutions today, as I said, we'll come back in due course and update everybody on operations.
Great. We'll see we've got no questions through. So perhaps on that note, Philip, we'll thank you very much indeed for updating investors today. Please ask investors not to close the session. You'll now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order the team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete and is greatly valued by the company. On behalf of Philip and the management team of Falcon Oil and Gas Limited, I'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That concludes today's session, and good afternoon to you all.